Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you can hear us and we're going to get started. We're going to talk through some of the new projects in the Connect Fund and we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. This is my colleague Liz Hayes, who is the Assistant Manager of the Connect Fund, and I'm Jessica Brown, the Connect Fund Manager. And we've got a lot to share with you today. So for those of you joining, I hope that you can hear. If you can't for any reason, please send us a note on the chat box and we'll try to speak more loudly. So the format for today is that we're going to talk through a little bit of an introduction about the Fund and where we are today. And then we're going to present the 45 grantee projects that we have with a focus on the new grantees. We're going to do that by region, so across 9 regions of England, and to try to share with you which organizations we're supporting and a brief overview of who's doing what. We'll have time for Q&A at the end. And again, if there are questions that come up, please do use the chat function. And we found what worked quite well on the previous webinar is that if you are listening from your project and you want to share anything or share additional information, in particular your contact information or email, that's quite helpful to do via the chat function as well, because others on the webinar can see that. But obviously we'll be also holding our face-to-face learning event on the 8th of October coming up. So you'll have an opportunity to meet each other in person at that event. So this in effect is a preview of more of what we'll be doing on the day at our learning community event. Okay, right. So I'll get started. Okay.
How bad is the sound? Is it quite bad, the break up of the sound? Or is it soft?
Terrible. Okay. So I think maybe what we could do is we could try and we thought it was if we try and speak more closely to the microphone, does that help? Can you guys let us know if it's a microphone issue? Otherwise, we can try and use headphones. And we thought that this was an internet connectivity issue. Okay, great. So we're going to try to carry on this way. Speaking more closely to the microphone. You'll just, okay, brilliant. I'll lean in. You'll just get a closer view of me, but hopefully that won't be too bad. Right. So I'm going to talk you through, as I said, our project, and this is meant to be a preview of what we're going to be doing at our learning community event. We have quite a few new things to share with you. We have 45 new projects, but please do use the chat function as I was saying before, and that way we can try and answer any questions you may have as we go along. Okay, right. So brief introduction of our team now. We've grown to 3 members. So there's myself, Jessica, the Connect Fund Manager, my colleague Liz Hayes, who's our Assistant Manager, and Alex Padilla, who is our Program Officer. So hopefully you will have interacted with us and you know who to contact if you have questions or want to touch base with us in the future. Right, so as everyone who has received a grant from us knows, but those of you who may be and having an introduction to the Connect Fund for the first time, the Connect Fund was set up with funding from the Access Foundation in order to try to create a more effective and more efficient social investment market in England for charities and social enterprises, community enterprises, and particularly those who make up the bulk of the social sector at the smaller to medium-sized end of the spectrum. So that's something we've been working on for the past 18 months, and we now want to share with you the range of initiatives that we've supported across England. So we now have almost £2 million in grant commitments that we've made across 45 projects in each of the 9 regions that of England. And we're happy to say, as was highlighted recently in the Third Sector magazine yesterday, that the bulk of our projects are outside of London. So 64% of the projects we're supporting are in the regions, or are, in fact, more than that, are in national in scope if they're not focused on a particular region. So this gives you an overview of where our funding has gone to date. You can see that there are clusters of funding, particularly in places where there's been a lot of activity on social investment. So, for example, the Southwest and the North. But we're also supporting what are traditionally seen as cold spots, so places like the East of England and the East Midlands. We're trying to ensure, in particular, that places that may have been outside of the social investment spectrum so far are starting to engage with social investment, and that we're hearing from new voices, and that we're encouraging those networks and connections in other places where that might have historically been seen as cold spots as well. The grants that we've made can be classified into different themes. So these projects, many of which are collaborative, many of which involve multiple organizations, and they, in fact, might be doing a range of different things, but we've classified them according to these 8 themes in order to give you a snapshot of what is happening. You can see a lot of work is going on in terms of capacity building, or what's now being called enterprise development for the sector, to try to help develop financial resilience, to help with business planning, to help with new streams of revenue and enterprise that can ultimately lead to forms of social investment. So there's a lot of work going on with capacity building. There's also quite a lot of work going on with building networks, with helping support those networks that do exist and helping them to become better connected, more viable, and to try to fund that challenging space of collaboration and knowledge sharing. So there's quite a lot of work going on there in order to foster better market information, better connectivity, better transparency, and better data sharing. And this was done, we've done this stage in 2 open rounds of funding. So the first round, we made 17 grants, and that was a total of about £740,000. That first round focused primarily on existing social investment intermediaries that were operating and dispersing social investment in the market. And the second round has primarily focused on voluntary sector infrastructure, membership networks, and other representative organizations that are engaging with their members to try to bring them into social investment or to build financial resilience. And so we have around 28 grants now, totaling about 1.2 million in that second category. Right. So I think we've tried to represent this information for you in a different way. So this is what we call a Sankey diagram. It was actually invented by Sankey during the Industrial Revolution to try to show how energy flows function. So it's quite an interesting infographic to try to share with you where the flows of our funding are going. Our funding ultimately comes from DCMS, but on the left here of this diagram, you see that there are 3 pots of money that went into Access. And then from Access, we've received our funding, and we've been on granted it. It falls according to, flows out according to these various categories. So you can see to date how the money has been dispersed and allocated according to which categories of work. And we also have then redone the snapshot to show you regionally where the funding is going. So it gives you quite a good sense of, how it's come into us through Access, and then how it's going out to support a wide range of projects and activities and collaborative initiatives across each of the 9 regions. The other thing that we've done here for you is my colleague Alex did this. It's quite a nifty snapshot, a new tool called a Kumu map. And it's an interactive network map of where all of our funds are flowing. So this is a work in progress, and we wanted to share with you this draft version. It's quite useful. It's hard to see from the webinar, perhaps, but we will, after our learning community event, when we finalize this, we will share it with you. It's an online tool in which the type or theme of project, that's the activity that's being worked on, is color coded. And then the size of the dots represents how much money has gone to that particular project. And then the dots themselves in this instance are clustered around the region, so that hopefully you can see what the other projects are doing, who's doing what, how much funding they've received, and how you can better connect and plug into that to help create clusters of activity, and that you can share information, and that will help advance the learning information, the learning network, and the knowledge and resources and tools that you can share across those clusters. So we just wanted to preview that map for you there, and we'll be sharing that with you again following the learning community. Right, so now in the second section of our webinar, we're going to introduce to you our new grantees by region. And this is something that we thought might be useful and that we had feedback on, that people would like to know what's going on in their area in particular. So the way that you'll see that we've structured this is that we have put our new grantees at the top, and those are the ones that we'll focus on and that we'll talk to the most. But below the line, we've included the logos for those organizations that we supported previously in the first round, and therefore you can see who else is doing something in your region. So I'm going to start and present some of the national projects, and I'm going to go through a few of the regions, and then I'm going to hand over to Liz, who will talk you through a few of the other regions. And then we will wrap up at the end of that with Q&A. So please, again, do jump in. And as I said at the outset, in case you couldn't hear me, we would welcome you sharing through the chat function either your contact details or some additional short information about your project if you think that's useful to share on the webinar that you'd like to share with other people as well. So projects in this round that are more national in scope, the first I'm going to talk about is Disability Rights UK. So we've made them a grant. The CEO there is Norman Malik, and he's very, very dynamic. He's a new CEO. I believe he started in July 2017. And, there's a really great profile of him in The Guardian in May 2018. So if you want to know more about Cameron Malik and his ambitions for Disability Rights UK, you can read that Guardian article. And we've supported Disability Rights UK to build additional capacity to become the voice of the disability sector with respect to social investment. So they themselves are building capacity internally to be that. And then they're also looking at across the entire national spectrum of user-led organizations, what they're calling ULOs, and how they can engage with those social purpose organizations in order to understand their business models, understand how they work, how they function, what type of financial skills or business planning they might require to support revenue models that could ultimately lead to social finance or social investment of some type. So that's a very interesting project. The two contact individuals there are, as I said, Cameron Malik, or also Tony Stevens, who hopefully will be attending our learning community, and you can meet them there. A second project that's national in scope within this round is Locality. Many of you will know Locality. Tony Armstrong is the CEO. It's quite an established organization that represents a number of different community enterprises across England and indeed the UK. And we're working with them to help their membership, in particular on peer-to-peer learning about kind of what works within community enterprises and those community enterprises that have perhaps used social investment or done a community share offer in the past. How can other members that are thinking about going down that path learn in practice from those organizations? So that's that peer learning element we think has been very valued and is very valuable. And that's something that we're particularly supporting Locality to continue to do, and to explore that types of models of financial resilience, new income streams, and they'll be showcasing that in particular at the conference on the 7th and 8th of November in Bristol. So if you haven't already registered, you might want to take a look at that, because it looks like it will be an interesting showcase of community enterprises, particularly in the southwestern region, because it will be held in Bristol. And again, as I said, below the line on this slide, you can see the rate of other projects and organizations we've supported who are doing work at largely on an national level across England. In the southeast, we've got two very interesting projects. So we've got Hastings Voluntary Action, Hastings has partnered with a really dynamic social enterprise called Hastings Works, and they are building what we call the East Sussex Social Enterprise Support Service. And in particular, their CEO, their Steve Manwaring, is helping to connect really dynamic social enterprises to what they're calling social investment champions. And so they're doing a range, some capacity building work, some network building, and they're also building a kind of social investment champions who are community members, leaders who have financial expertise and knowledge. They're business leaders in their own rights, and they're being trained up as social investment champions. I think that's a really exciting project, and that network will continue to grow in the Southeast. Also in the Southeast, we have Medway Voluntary Action, and they are a smaller CVS organization, but they're very, very dynamic. They're led by their CEO, Jane Howard. They've actually already reached out and partnered with Big Society Capital to bring in a Let's Talk Good Finance event, and they're based in Chatham. So I think they're starting from an earlier point in terms of their engagement with social investment, but they've already come quite a long way, and they're very keen to interact with and to network with other organizations that are working in this space as well. So we're very pleased on board as part of our portfolio. Also in the Southeast, we have sort of very different organizations. They're that I'm showing here below the line. So there's Open Data Services, and then there's the Community Shares Company. In particular, the Community Shares Company is working on a really interesting project to do an e-learning course on community shares. But we can talk more about that at the Learning Community event. And also they were featured on our first webinar. So some of these grantees below the line, if you want to learn more about what they're doing, I would urge you to go back and watch or rewatch the first webinar where we introduced those grantees. Right, so in the Southwest, is a kind of a hive of activities. There's a lot going on. And I'm going to start with the project on the right here, which are three CVS organizations here. And this is an exciting project because Exeter, Plymouth, and Torbay have teamed up to work on what we're calling the SIMPLE project. So SIMPLE is an acronym that stands for the Social Investment Marketplace Links. In fact, these three organizations are very dynamic. They're very different in their own right, and they have different strengths. The three individuals there, in particular, Simon Bowkett, first approached me at Exeter and suggested that they could work and work together jointly to build a kind of node of activity. Exeter has a hub, a collab, they call it, that works on well-being initiatives, and it brings together a lot of different organizations in that region. And they've partnered with the Plymouth Octopus Project, which is called POP, and they also partnered with the Torbay Community Development Trust to kind of share work that they're doing on capacity building, on connecting to commissioners, and on trying to build effectively an ecosystem where social investment can be one tool to help build a social economy in that region of the Southwest. So I urge you to reach out to them. They've been doing a lot of really great work. And also in Bristol, we've just recently made a grant to Bristol and Bath Regional Capital. So that is a very well-respected social investor run by Ed Robury, and he's partnering directly with Voster and Sandra Meadows, who's also a very dynamic CEO. They're going to be plugging into the new Bristol One City plan. They're engaging with the Black Southwest Network, who's another of our grantees that you'll see there, and they're going to ensure that smaller to medium-sized community-led and driven social enterprises are, and in particular through the Black Southwest Network, Black and minority enterprises, that they're integrated into the fabric of this new Bristol City plan, and that that the social economy continues to be supported there as part of that. And then finally, we have at the top, the upper left, we have the LGBT Consortium. And they, in effect, they're a national membership organization. They have a wide range of members. Paul Roberts is our contact person there. And they are doing something very similar to Disability Rights UK in the sense that they are upskilling themselves to understand both how social investment might impact their membership, and then also how they can become a center of expertise with respect to supporting them along that journey. So in a way that they're doing capacity building both for themselves as an organization, and then how they can engage with their members to help them build financial resilience and develop new business models that will lend themselves to social investment in the future. Right, so at this point, you've heard enough from me talking. I'm going to hand over to Liz, and she's going to talk you through some of our other regional initiatives. So let me pass you.
Okay, so Birmingham are working with Traverse, and Traverse are going to be providing them with training and development to build the capacity of their internal staff to embed social finance knowledge and skills in the organisation. And this will progress in the development and the delivery of a pilot project for BBSC's voluntary community and social enterprise members to raise awareness of social investment and to build consortia and collaborative social enterprise projects across the West Midlands Combined Authority area. So the training pilot for the VCSEs will be delivered kind of March to September time next year, and our lead contact there is Jasbir Rai, who's the Deputy Chief Exec at BDSC. So moving on to Wolverhampton, they're going to be offering capacity building to provide technical skills and support to the VCS organisations in Wolverhampton, so they can become investment ready to deliver public sector contracts and other commissioned work. This will enable the sector in Wolverhampton to increase their involvement in the delivery of public services through consortium models and also through social impact bond models that have been developed by WVCS. So WVCS are working with a consultant called Natasha Jolab, who is from Kaizen, and she'll be providing technical support. And one of the key outputs from this project is a social enterprise and investment resource book, which will be available across the region and sit alongside other existing resources. And we're currently working with Ian Dart there. Moving on to East of England. So Community Action Suffolk project is designed to increase the number of organisations in Suffolk receiving social investment. So at the moment, the voluntary and community sector in Suffolk is largely made up of very small organisations, and most of the social investment activity is currently based in the urban areas, so Ipswich, Felixstowe and Lowestoft. And although the awareness of social investment is growing and local investors are interested in finding out more about how they can offer things adapted more for small organisations, they're not currently available. So that's what Community Action Suffolk are going to be working on. They're trying to test social investment on a smaller scale than it's currently available locally. And it's a 2-year project, and we're currently working with Hannah Reid at Community Action Suffolk. And this project will work with both sides of the social investment equation. So it will provide diagnostic and investment readiness support for potential investees, extend the range of social investment offerings in Suffolk, and those kind of possible offers could include like smaller loans, varying the type of investment, and even looking at blended finance. So alongside them is Peterborough Council for Voluntary Services, and they're working on a community hive project, which is having their launch symposium on the 27th of September. So if you're interested in that project, Rebecca Jackson is the person to speak to at PCVS. And their project is to support the growth of social investment in Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. So then PCVS were part of the establishing the Peterborough Plus Consortium, which is a BCSE joint venture geared towards large-scale contracts, and which it secured a 1 million employment support contract. But they're aware of how many of the VCSE organisations in the social sector or the social care sector lack skills and capacity to take advantage of outcome-based commissioning. So they'll be delivering a social impact and investment readiness programme for the broader VCSE community in Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. And they'll be getting support and expertise to be able to deliver a pitch to a panel of social investors in March 2019. So that sounds like a really exciting opportunity in Peterborough. And finally, in the east of England, which Jessica's already kind of touched upon as being a bit of a cold spot, we've also got Social Enterprise East of England. So they are looking to increase awareness and understanding of social enterprise and create a social enterprise network in Essex. SEE have a close relationship with Social Enterprise UK, so they have a joint membership arrangement with them and a close working relationship. So a lot of the findings from this project will be shared through the SEE UK network. And they're also aiming to work with both the supply and demand sides. So the project will raise awareness of social investment, develop capacity for trading for sustainable income, and make repayable investment a viable option for organisations in Essex. So on the funding side, SE will also work with the Essex Growth Hub, which is an initiative from the Essex County Council and the local economic partnership, which is helping to understand better what the needs of social enterprises are and how they differ from traditional businesses and how their needs can be met by the kind of investment from the Growth Hub there. Moving on to the Northwest, we have the Greater Manchester Centre for Voluntary Organisation, and they're working on a specific project which fits into our diversity theme, looking at, it's going to be a short action learning study that will explore social investment support requirements for BME voluntary and community sector groups. So BME voluntary sector organisations are less well connected and less resourced and less heard than others in the sector, and GMCVO believes that is due to fragmented support, and that's the initial barrier to them accessing social investment. So this project will look to gain an understanding of what services are available, why BME organisations don't appear to be making use of them, and how providers can make them more inclusive. So they're going to carry out a 6-month study to enable peer support and link BME organisations interested in social investment with suitable support to support them on their journey to do that. So they're planning to work with several social investment partners, including Key Fund, First Arc, and Big Society Capital. And the person to speak to there is Ian Taylor, involved in that. Sefton Council for Voluntary Services are looking to explore and test local social investment models to increase community resilience through prevention and early intervention work. So we've been working with Tony Nichols there. I think Sue is also on the webinar today. And I've also had a conversation with Angela White there, their chief executive. And we're hoping that will work with Liverpool CVS as well. I know that initial conversations gone on about how they can share information across their projects as they develop. So Sefton CVS will be working with the council and its partners to encourage a change in culture among commissioners and providers in order to sustain services for the most vulnerable people in the borough. So they're going to be testing new models of financing to support voluntary sector organisations that are providing those early intervention and prevention services and building their capacity and resilience as an organisation. So the project will explore the potential for social investment to finance solutions that address those challenges and test the extent to which financial innovation can foster local economic resilience. So that's a 1-year project, and Sefton will be making as much information and data and resources available as it can across its social investment portal, which will be publicised through its regular communication channels, but also as part of the Greater Merseyside funding advice as well. So moving on to Yorkshire and the Humber, we have CERT and their Gearing Up project. So this is to address the VCSE concerns in relation to social investment through peer visits and masterclasses. So everyone, I think, is probably aware of the challenges around getting board buy-in to social investment and the concerns around doing and taking on social investment. So they found that VCSEs are more likely to be successful in developing feasible investment proposals if they receive support at a very early stage. So they're developing a one-year modular programme that participants can either complete in full or in part to raise awareness and build capacity and assist enterprise development in this area. So this will involve visits to peers who have practical experience of taking on social investment and a complementary series of masterclass workshops. And a big part of this project is the participation of trustees as well as members of executive team to ensure that strategic understanding and commitment to an investment proposition developed through the programme. And it's Neil King who I think was on, or yeah, I think Neil is there on the webinar today. So he's the person to speak to there. And also in Yorkshire and the Humber, we've got Groundwork South Yorkshire, and they're looking at social investment breakthrough. So their aim is to boost demand for social investment among smaller voluntary community and social enterprises and increase the supply of suitable social investment products. They're developing the skills of board and senior management to inform decisions about social investment, exploring the demand for social investment in the area, particularly among new social enterprises, and fostering engagement between social investors. We're okay. So it's Lahari who is leading on that project. So there is the Trello board, obviously. We would encourage everyone to keep communicating via that. We did record a how-to guide over the summer, which is linked on the how do I use this board card, the Trello board. So if you're not familiar with Trello or you're wondering how best to use the Connect Fund Trello, please do go and have a quick watch of that video. It's about 20 minutes long, but you can skip through bits that you understand. And it's just really helpful shared resource. You can put your reports on there, you can communicate with us on there, and you can tell people more about your project in greater depth. Obviously, we also have our website and our resource page on there. Will be regularly updated with blogs and reports coming out. So if you have developed any reports that you want us to share, do send them through to either Jessica, Alex, or myself, and we will pop them up there for a broader audience. And we've also got our group spaces mailing list, which is for grantees, and you can use that to contact the whole of the rest of the cohort to share information with them as well about events or reports or information that you think would be relevant or useful for others involved in the Connect Fund. Just moving on finally, before we go on to our Q&A, to our evaluation. So we are working with NPC, so New Philanthropy Capital, to work on the evaluation for the Connect Fund, and they will be attending the Learning Community event on the 8th and running an independent facilitated feedback session with a selected group in the afternoon for one of our workshops. So that will be a really good chance to give kind of independent feedback to our evaluators. They're also helping us to develop our theory of change, which is currently available on the Trello board. And we're currently working to these impact values as before, which you can find out more about our evaluation on the Trello board on the evaluation pages. And just a reminder that we have got this draft monitoring form that we have asked for feedback on. So that is linked on the Trello board, and you can comment directly on the sheet itself or on one of the cards on the Trello board. Have a look at it, see if it works for you. This is what we're hoping to incorporate into our reporting for all Connect Fund projects. So it has to be relevant and applicable to every project as much as possible. So please do have a look at that and see if it would add to your workload, if there's anything we've missed. We really would welcome your feedback on that.